I can't look at this stretch of Patriots news and pretend it is just another quiet May storyline. There is a serious A.J. Brown rumor hanging over the offense. Kayshon Boutte is starting to look like a potential trade chip. The Patriots are still searching for more juice off the defensive edge. And Romeo Doubs is working through the kind of transition that could make life easier for Drake Maye. So stay locked in, hit subscribe, because today is not empty offseason noise. This is about choices that could reshape the core of this roster. And the part that hits a little, Patriots Nation, is that this rumor pulls you in two directions at the same time. On one side, you imagine A.J. Brown stepping into this offense and you say, finally, a receiver who changes how a defense has to line up. A weapon who makes safeties respect the deep part of the field. A guy who lets Drake Maye break the huddle, knowing he has someone who can win a physical matchup without needing perfection. But then Kayshon Boutte enters the conversation, and suddenly this is not just a fantasy about the market, it becomes a real roster decision. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated wrote that he believes the Patriots would be willing to move Boutte for a 5th or 6th round pick if another team shows interest. And that lands at a time when Boutte has not been with the team during the offseason workout program. Put that absence beside the growing expectation of a possible post-June 1 trade for Brown, and you see why Boutte's name keeps getting pulled right into the middle of this discussion. But we have to be fair. He just turned 24. Last season, before the hamstring injury slowed him down, he was on pace to clear 900 yards. He still finished with 33 catches, 551 yards, and a career-high 6 touchdowns. And that was not fake production. He built a connection with Drake Maye. That 32-yard touchdown grab in the playoffs against the Houston Texans showed exactly what he offers. Deep ball ability, trust, timing, and burst in a big moment. So why would you trade a young, useful, inexpensive receiver? Because the NFL is not kind to overlapping roles. Boutte was basically an X-receiver, lining up out wide on 89.9% of his snaps, according to Pro Football Focus. A.J. Brown lives in that same space too, with 88.4% of his snaps coming out wide. Romeo Doubs looks more natural on the opposite side and also plays mostly outside. If Brown arrives, it becomes hard to picture Boutte holding a real role, especially with Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas, Efton Chisholm, and others battling for specific jobs. And then you have to talk about the money. Doubs already landed a big contract. If Brown comes in, New England would be taking on a deal that climbs year after year against the cap. Boutte, Hollins, and Douglas are all going into the final year of their deals. At some point, the Patriots have to decide where to invest, who deserves an extension, and where to turn a crowded position room into another asset. I like Boutte. Fans have every reason to like him, but defending this team also means understanding when a cold move might support a bigger plan. If Elliott Wolf can turn a squeezed roster piece into a draft pick while giving Maye a dominant target, that hurt might actually have a purpose. Now shift to the other side of the ball, because Janarius Robinson visiting Foxborough has the feel of one of those May workouts people overlook now and remember in November. Ian Rappaport reported that the edge rusher is working out with the Patriots, and that connects directly to a need that did not vanish just because the team added new pieces. New England wanted more speed on the edge. Draymond Jones helps. Gabe Jacus arrived in the 2nd round. Harold Landry leads the group. But no serious coach looks at a pass rush and says, "We're set, we have enough." Robinson is interesting because his physical profile screams raw athletic tools. 6'5", 263 pounds, a 9.31 relative athletic score during the 2021 pre-draft process, a 4.69 40, a 1.64 10-yard split, a 34-inch vertical, and a 10'1" broad jump. That is not the profile of a finished star. That is the profile of an athlete who, if healthy and used correctly, could give a coordinator a burst, chase speed, and situational pressure off the edge. But his career so far has been anything but smooth. Drafted by the Vikings in the 4th round, pick 134, he never played a game for Minnesota. A leg injury ended his rookie training camp. Then came the practice squad, a move to the Eagles, a short stay there, and only with the Raiders did he finally get real NFL snaps. Over 2 seasons in Las Vegas, he appeared in 16 games, started 3, and totaled 1.5 sacks with 13 tackles. Those numbers are not going to shake a stadium. But that is also not enough of a sample that lets you say the player is finished. And here's the Patriots angle I respect. Sometimes the franchise is not chasing a headline, it is chasing competition. Robinson still has to prove health, consistency, and real value against NFL blockers. But when you place him beside names like Elijah Ponder, Braden Swinson, Jesse Luketa, Quintavious Hutchins, and Xavier Holmes, The message feels obvious. Nobody is getting a spot because they are comfortable. The defensive edge room is going to be tested, pushed, and filtered. And if there is still any athletic spark left in Robinson, Foxborough wants to see it up close before another team gets that chance. And that same story becomes even bigger when you look at the entire pass rush, not just the player walking into the building. The Patriots spent the offseason knowing they needed to bother quarterbacks more often. They lost Kayshon in free agency, brought in Draymond Jones, drafted Gabe Hakis in the second round, and are expecting a healthy version of Harold Landry third. On paper, that already feels like an answer. But a team trying to control games again does not treat quarterback pressure like a box that got checked. It treats pressure like an obsession. That is why the Janarius Robinson workout is not just some random note on the transaction wire. It is part of a bigger question. Do the Patriots already have enough pass rush to support Drake Maye in big games, or do they still need to hunt for every ounce of explosion they can find? Because a good defense is not only about the cleanest starter on the depth chart, it lives through the third edge rusher who enters fresh in the third quarter. It lives through the guy who makes a tired tackle open his hips too early. It lives through rotation, fresh legs, and repeated threats. When strong offenses show up, one pressure runner is not enough. The rush has to come in waves. Robinson is still more athletic promise than proven production. That has to be said honestly. He has had very few real chances, only 187 defensive snaps with the Raiders, with 1.5 sacks and 13 tackles. Before that, his career was slowed by injury, practice squads, and restarts. With the Chiefs, another setback came when a fractured foot put him on injured reserve before the season ever really got moving. So nobody is saying Foxborough found a magic answer hiding on the market. But there is another side to it. Sometimes a player with real athletic gifts needs longer because he got trapped in rough cycles, because he never found rhythm, because his body did not cooperate, because the right role never arrived. The Patriots do not need to promise Robinson anything. They just need to find out whether there is still an athlete there who can win a specific job. And if there is, even as a depth piece, that changes the energy of camp. Now I want to hear from the fanbase war room. In the comments, would you rather see New England add another athletic edge to make the defense faster? Or do you trust the current group with Landry, Jones, and Jackas? Because that answer says a lot about how every fan sees the ambition of this team. And after trades, depth, and defensive competition, the Romeo Doubs news lands in a more personal place for the offense. Trust. Because the Patriots did not bring Doubs in just to be a nice free agency photo. They brought him in to function inside a system that demands a calm mind, precise routes, and chemistry with Drake Maye. For a young quarterback, that is almost oxygen. A receiver can have talent, size, a big contract, and the fan base behind him. But if he breaks the wrong route on third down, if he reads the coverage differently than the quarterback, if he arrives half a second late, the drive can die right there. Doubs signed for 4 years in a deal that can reach $80 million, and that alone puts expectations on his shoulders. But the most interesting part came when he talked about the playbook. He admitted it is different. He said some concepts meant one thing in Green Bay, and now he has to leave that behind because in New England, the language, the adjustments, and the layers are different. I like that answer, not because it sounds comfortable, but because it shows respect for the process. He did not act like he walked in already owning the system. He understands that with Josh McDaniels, a receiver does not get to run on autopilot. That detail matters even more after the departure of Stefon Diggs, who was released in March because of cap space concerns after a season with 85 catches, 1,013 yards, and 4 touchdowns. When a player with that kind of presence leaves the building, somebody has to take on responsibility, not just snaps. Doubs does not have to become a superstar in his first practice, but he does have to become reliable. He has to be the target Maye looks for when the defense brings pressure, when the safety hides the coverage, when the drive starts to feel like it could slip away. And there is a good sign here. Doubs said he has the right people around him. He mentioned Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, and Efton Chisholm as players helping him understand the system. That is room culture. That is a new receiver not being left alone to decode everything by himself. And when a receiver room starts teaching, competing, and adjusting to the same quarterback, the offense has a real chance to speed up. The Patriots' jump in 2026 might not come from one single market bomb. It might come from the combination. Brown as the massive possibility, Doubs as the paid fit expected to produce, and Maye growing with targets who understand exactly where they need to be. Because in the end, the pretty play starts before the ball ever leaves the quarterback's hand. It starts when the quarterback and receiver see the same thing at the same time. At the end of the day, all of this points to the same truth. The Patriots are trying to move from exciting promise to real threat. If A.J. Brown comes in, the offense gets instant weight. If Boutte leaves, it will hurt, but it may reveal a clear priority. If Janarius Robinson shows something, the defense gets another shot of speed. And if Romeo Doubs clicks quickly with Drake Maye, then New England starts turning potential into execution. This is the kind of offseason that separates an ordinary team from a team with a plan. If you want to follow every move in this ambitious rebuild, subscribe to the channel and come back tomorrow, because Foxborough is not done talking yet.